In 1861, Alabama seceded from the Union, joining the Confederacy. The Reconstruction period followed the war from 1865 to 1877. From Reconstruction until the 1960s, Alabama consistently voted Democrat as a part of the Solid South. However, Alabama shifted from a Democrat to a Republican stronghold. Some argue that the shift of the South from Democrat to Republican was a repercussion of Lyndon B. Johnson and the Democrats pushing through the Civil Rights Acts. Republicans in the 1960s, most notably Richard Nixon and Barry Goldwater, implemented the Southern Strategy, which, among other factors, focused on racial issues to flip Southern states from Democrat to Republican. However, political scientists Richard Johnson and Byron Schaeffer argue that the shift was based on economic, not racial issues. They argued that as the economies in the South improved, Southerners tended to vote for Republicans whose policies were more in line with their economic interests. Regardless of the reason for the shift, after the 1968 election, Alabama has voted Republican in every election, aside from 1976, where they voted for Jimmy Carter. Alabama is the second most religious state in the United States after Mississippi, according to the Pew Forum Research Center. This doesn't come as a surprise, with Alabama being a part of the Bible Belt. With that, Alabama is about 3/4 white and about 1/4 African American. A thin band of counties across Alabama regularly vote Democrat. According to NPR, this strip matches the coastline roughly 100 million years ago. The coastline causes the soil to be incredibly fertile even to today. Due to the fertile soil, this stretch produced the most cotton per acre in the 19th century. Quoting from Booker T. Washington's autobiography, Up From Slavery, points out, "The part of the country possessing this thick, dark, and naturally rich soil was, of course, the part of the South where the slaves were most profitable, and consequently they were taken there in large numbers." According to the 2000 census, the countries with the largest population of African Americans still trace the ancient shoreline. This shoreline is known as the Black Belt due to the dark and fertile soil. The Bible Belt is a region taking up most of the southern United States, including most of Texas and Oklahoma. This section of the U.S. is called the Bible Belt because Protestantism is a large part of people's lives, and church attendance rates are higher than they are in the rest of the United States. With Alabama considered as one of the most religious states in the country, and having about 58% of the population attend church regularly, it is right in the heart of the Bible Belt. Research has linked evangelical Protestantism to social conservatism, which explains why Alabama has continued to vote Republican over the past election since 1968. The traditional views of Christians agree with the traditional conservative views when it comes to politics. The belief that marriage is between a man and a woman and that abortion is immoral are widely held beliefs throughout the Bible Belt, which correspond with Republican views more than they do with Democratic views. For example, Obama supports the Supreme Court decision made in Roe v. Wade and Romney does not. According to WhiteHouse.gov, Obama supports same-sex marriage based on his support for the Respect for Marriage Act and his opposition to the Defense of Marriage Act. According to MittRomney.com, Romney claims that he will champion a federal marriage amendment defining marriage between one man and one woman. On issues of this sort, the Christian views held by many Alabama residents correspond with Romney much more than they do with Obama. The 2012 general election in Alabama should prove to be no different than the elections in recent memory. Senator McCain took Alabama in 2008 in a landslide victory that ended in a nearly 500,000 vote margin, giving McCain 60.4% of the popular vote and extending the GOP's 8-election win streak in Alabama. There was quite an extreme racial divide in this election as well, with African Americans solidly behind Barack Obama and whites backing John McCain. The voter turnout in 2008 closely mirrored the racial divide, with whites making up 71% of the electorate and African Americans making up 26.5% of the electorate. Barack Obama's presence on the ballot inspired a new wave of registered voters in 2008 that doesn't look to carry over to the 2012 election. According to polls conducted by the Capital Survey Research Center and research consultants, Romney is at 54% and 59% respectively, with Obama only holding 36% and 34% respectively. Although Romney finished third in the Republican primary in Alabama and Obama has outspent by a factor of roughly 3-1, the long-term factors in Alabama make this election fairly clear-cut. We predict that Romney and the Republicans will win with roughly 60% of the popular vote in Alabama.
1, 2, 3.